video is all about one of the main characters, David Lee. We love him, we love to hate him, and we just want to know who he's based on. Or at least I would if I was reading this book. You're probably wondering if he's based on a real person or just a figment of my imagination. And we're all hoping and praying it's just a figment of my imagination, but it's not. No, he's based on a real person. Like I said in the last video, of my favorite scene reading is that there are bits and pieces in this book that are based on my real life, and the characters actually have people that they're loosely based on or fully based on, depending on who they are. But for David, about 80 to 90% is based on one guy. When I was actually writing this book, I met him. So this was January 2018, and I was 21. So I'm now 24. Just had a birthday about 2 months ago. So when I met him, I was coming up on my 22nd birthday, but it's crazy to think back that I was just 21 and got this huge inspiration. I'd been writing my book for almost a year, and I had created the David character almost 2 years before that. So July 2016 is actually when I came up with the character of David Lee and Lucy. Back then, they were just teenagers, but I hit a roadblock, and so I scratched that, and in April of 2017, I started Will You Love Me Again, and they're a married couple, and at first, David wasn't really based on anyone. He was just kind of based on all these guys that come in and out of my life, because at that point, I had not met the guy who I initially had now based David on. And so, I'm writing, he's not feeling too real, because, who do I base on? I'd never fallen in love while I was writing, and so their marriage kind of lacked that love and that appreciation that you have for someone else in that kind of way. Because I had friendships, I love and platonic love, but never really romantic love. And then I met this guy, and I was like, oh, I'm falling fast. We got to know each other very quickly, and I'm actually the one who said I love you first. And so all those moments of feeling like really in love and passionate and just like it's been treated like a princess, that was what my real life world of romance was about. And it was over as fast as it started. It burned very bright, but it burned out very quickly. And I sit here and I'm like, wow, that was 2 years ago. And I'm sitting here thinking, sometimes I want to go back and other times I don't. But it's also great life experience and great book inspiration. So if you ever have a writer fall in love with you or vice versa, well, you might end up in a book. And pretty sure they should be glad that I'm only a young adult to new adult writer and not a writer, because goodness gracious, you'd be dead already. Sorry, but you would. Old flames are that way. But I got lucky, and I choose not to hate my past love. Most people probably think I do because of what happened afterwards, but I don't. I choose to look at it the best way possible and put it in the best light. And I've been told with the scene that I read in the previous video that I do put it in the best light, because I choose to look at the lighter side of it, the side where I was in love and I thought it was gonna last forever. And that's kind of how this book is. You think that their romance is forever, and you don't really know why she's having all these bad feelings about David, because he seems almost perfect. And maybe he is. Maybe he's too good to be true. And that's kind of what I thought about my guy. I was like, he's too good to be true. Like, how is one guy this nice to me and treats me this well, and then all of a sudden it's like the tables are reversed and I'm the one that's like, well, why don't you talk to me anymore? And why this and not that? And it just kind of like flips around. You're like, why am I not as important anymore as I was? And so all of that I wrote, their romance and maybe the ending, who knows, you'll have to read the book, is based on that relationship. Because how that relationship started was and ended is how I chose all of the pathway for Lucy and David. Because I actually didn't know how their relationship would come about, how it progressed, how it would evolve, because I'd never really been through something like that until I met the guy that I based David off of. And it just got crazy. I actually wrote most of the book after we stopped speaking, and so it's mostly from my memory, of course. Yeah, it's it's a lot. When you ask a writer kind of who they base someone off of and they don't know what to say, that's because it's legit. It's real, it's wholesome, it's the rawest and most vulnerable way they can write, because all writers have muses. And most people don't understand that you have a muse even after the person is not in your life anymore. In my case, he wasn't. He was gone, kaput, not speaking anymore, didn't want anything to do with me, and I didn't know how to handle that. And so I put all of that energy into my writing. And the 4 months after I found out that he didn't want anything to do with me, I wrote half of Will You Love Me Again? And I was like, how am I ever going to tell him that a character is based off of him? Like, yeah, there's poems based off of you because I'm also a poet, but now there's a character in a book. Like, how do you tell a person that? But, good news, I told him. We joked about it. It didn't go as bad as I thought it would, so that's good. Um, and if you know me personally, you know who this person is, and you know how he feels about being written about. He actually doesn't mind it because he knew what he was getting himself into. I told him up front that I was an author and that I was working on a novel. I was in the very early stages when we met. I was actually writing the prologue through chapter 6 when we met. And then after we stopped speaking, I wrote chapters probably like 13 through the epilogue. So over or half the book, but I rewrote a lot of stuff, so over half a book written in 4 months. And you can imagine going back in those memories is really hard. Like when I would read back through them while we were editing the book, I was like, nope, I can see this. I can see it all in my head. It happened. Things were embellished, of course, because you can't solely base like everything. That would be way too obvious. Like David's career isn't based on the guy that was with. It's based on who would match with Lucy. And so David in the book is an editor. The David in real life is not. And that's good because it's not solely based on him, but you can tell he's fully based on someone almost. To the point of he's real and relatable, and that you really don't want to end up hating him. Because when you find out that Lucy's having all these doubts in their marriage, you're like, but he's so perfect. And I had those same doubts, and we weren't that serious, but it's still like, why is he with me? Why does he like me? Why does he love me? It's gonna end. It's gonna end. It's gonna end. And it did. And I still turn it over in my head of how he can be so perfect and great to me 1 minute, and the next, it's like everything got flipped upside down. but it happened. But more on the references in David Lee. If you've read the book, you know that he loves pizza rolls. That is based off of the guy that I was with. He absolutely loves them. And I don't know why I thought of this while I was writing. I was just like, okay, we have to put this in the book somewhere. He has to be in pizza rolls because, one, pizza rolls are my favorite too. And two, it's adorable how the scene plays out. Uh, just eating pizza rolls before they go on a double date. Like, I need food apparently before I go to Topgolf. That's a smart idea. So if you want to know more about that scene, check out chapter 12. It's one of my favorite scenes. It's funny. Um, you get to see them with their friends, Aaron and Jenny, which you'll find out more later. And David's just an interesting character. He's an interesting person in real life and in the book. I'm glad that I met him. I don't regret it one bit. And basing a character off him was probably crazy. But I think people do breakups in different ways. In my way, I write about it. Instead of killing him off, I made him the main love interest. And some of it was embellished and some of it wasn't. And we had one time said we'll either end up hitched or we'll end up as best friends. And we ended up as neither. So see what Lucy and David's story ends or doesn't end. Because the possibilities are endless throughout this book. You don't really see the ending coming because I didn't. I had 3 possible endings in mind. And David is actually still a part of the second book. So there's your hint. He's somehow part of it. I'm not going to tell you how, but we haven't seen the last of David after Will You Love Me Again. But in Where Will We Go, you still see him pop up from time to time. His name will come up. But if he's actually there, you'll have to wait for the sequel to find out. So, a little bit more about David before I let you go. He is this guy that probably everyone wants to date. He was really popular kind of in his group in high school. He was a new kid in the book. He moved from Nashville, Tennessee. My mom is actually originally from there, and so that's a little bit from my side. My family influences my writing a lot. And then you have he first lays eyes on Lucy in 9th grade, and you're just like, wow, this is going somewhere. This is going somewhere. And when they're just telling all those stories, I'm like, yeah, I went through that. We told stories about like when we were growing up and embarrassing stories. He probably knows more embarrassing stories about me than most guys do. Like David knows a lot about Lucy. Mine knows a lot about me. So there are real versions of David and Lucy in real life. Him being David and me being Lucy. Because, my real life does come into my fiction. I write from experience in my poems, so I write from experience in my fiction novels. It's more real that way. You can connect more to the reader, and I love being relatable and making my characters lovable, but also like, how could you do that to someone? And remember, it's just a book. But in this video, now you know that he's actually based off a real person, and I'm super thankful for that person being in my life when he was, and I think we met at the right time of when I was writing. It all happened for a reason, and breaking up was a good thing too. It kind of forced me to be myself and find who I am, and he gave me that chance, and that's why I'm so grateful to have this character based on him, on someone that I deeply loved at one time in my life and now is an old flame. But you'll have to read the book to find out if he's an old flame for Lucy or an ongoing one. but you'll just have to read to find out. And there are links below to buy my book, and you can go back one video and hear a reading of my favorite scene that shows the lovable David and how much he treated Lucy like a princess, or still treats her like a princess. And I'm glad that you are loving these characters. I've heard from a lot of readers that are loving them, and that's why I wanted to make this video, to just show you that even fiction can be based on someone real, and writers still have muses long after the people are out of their lives, because you impact our lives. We watch and we learn from the people around us and from the conversations around us. I base mine off of dialogue, and so there's a few pieces of dialogue in there that I actually had with that person, um, or that I just remember. I'm just like, oh wow, like we said that, we did all these things in this book, and now people get to read kind of about my life through a fiction novel. They get to learn about me and someone that I loved. And when you read this, you might blush a little bit, because I still do. When you fall in love, it's crazy. And I'll say that I thought I'd been in love before, but I was wrong. He was my first love. And you see that a lot with Lucy and David, because David is Lucy's first love. Even though I didn't meet mine in high school like I had thought I did, and mine was my senior year of college, me and Lucy are still the same. Our emotions go crazy when we're in love, and we want to be with that person, and we want to share everything with them, and they influence our writing like he influenced mine. And sometimes still does from time to time. Those old memories pop up, and I'm like, oh, I gotta write this down. And that's how Lucy is. Her blog reflects David. So go check out Lovely Lucy on WordPress, and you'll learn even more about David Lee. But that's all for now, and I can't wait for you to learn more about these characters through these videos, and just stick around for more, because I'm hoping to do more like this and share with you guys about my journey of writing these characters and crafting them, because it takes a little bit to craft them and a lot to keep the details straight. But you can also find more about David on www.emilycraigwriter.com/meetthecharacters. So go find out more about him and where he's from, what he does, and just have fun with this. And I hope you read the book. You did, comment below and let me know.